The morning sun cast long shadows across the playground when the ships appeared. Commander Jake Morrison was pushing his 8-year-old daughter Emma on the swing set, her laughter echoing through the quiet park. 20 years of military service had taught him to notice when something was wrong. The birds had stopped singing. The wind had died. Even the traffic noise from the nearby highway seemed muffled. Emma's swing slowed as she looked up. "Daddy, what are those?" 3 massive vessels hung in the sky like dark clouds. They were nothing like the sleek spacecraft from movies. These ships looked organic, almost alive. Their hulls pulsed with a sickly green light, and strange, tentacle-like appendages hung from their undersides. Jake had seen classified reports about these ships. The Stellar Dominion had arrived on Earth 6 months ago, claiming to be peaceful explorers. Most governments had welcomed them. Jake had not trusted them from day one. "Emma, we need to go home, right now." Jake's voice stayed calm, but his hand moved instinctively to where his sidearm would normally rest. He was off duty, wearing civilian clothes. The pistol was locked in his truck. The largest ship descended toward the playground. Jake grabbed Emma's hand and ran toward the parking lot, but it was too late. A beam of blue light engulfed them both. Jake felt his muscles freeze. His daughter's hand slipped from his as they both rose into the air. Inside the ship, Jake found himself standing in a circular chamber with walls that seemed to breathe. Emma stood beside him, her eyes wide with fear, but not crying. She was a tough kid. Raised by a single father who had deployed to dangerous places around the world. The air smelled of ozone and something else, something organic and unpleasant. 3 creatures entered the chamber. They stood 7 feet tall on 4 spindly legs. Their bodies were covered in what looked like living metal that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. Each had 6 arms ending in hands with too many fingers. Their heads were elongated, with clusters of eyes that blinked independently. When they spoke, their voices came from speakers hidden in the walls. "Human designated Morrison, Jake. Service record indicates military specialist training. You will be useful to the Dominion." The lead creature's voice was flat and mechanical. "Female offspring will ensure your cooperation." Jake stepped in front of his daughter. "What do you want? Your species possesses tactical innovation beyond your technological development. We require this knowledge. You will train our forces in human military doctrine. Failure to comply will result in termination of offspring." "I'm not telling you anything." Jake's voice was steel. He had endured interrogation training. He had resisted torture in black sites that officially did not exist. Some alien freak show was not going to break him. The creature tilted its head. "Perhaps you misunderstand the situation. Your governments have agreed to our presence. Your military leaders welcome our technological gifts. You are alone, human Morrison. No rescue will come." Jake said nothing. He was calculating angles, measuring distances, looking for weapons or weaknesses. The creatures carried no visible weapons, but the living metal of their skin probably served multiple purposes. The chamber had no obvious exits except for the door they had entered through. The walls looked organic but felt solid when he had brushed against one. "The female offspring will be relocated to our breeding facilities on Kepler 442b. She will be well cared for, assuming your cooperation. Our scientists are curious about human reproductive development in low-gravity environments." Emma moved closer to her father. Jake felt rage building in his chest like a furnace. These things wanted to experiment on his daughter. They had picked the wrong family to threaten. "I'll need time to consider your offer," Jake said carefully. "You have 1 rotation of your planet. We will return to this location in 24 hours. You will provide your answer then." The creature gestured with 2 of its 6 arms. "Transport will return you to the surface." The blue beam activated again. Jake found himself standing in the empty playground with Emma beside him. The ships were gone. The normal sounds of traffic and birds had returned. Emma looked up at him with trust in her eyes that broke his heart. Daddy, those things were scary. Are they coming back? Yes, sweetheart. They're coming back. But Daddy has friends who are going to help us. Jake pulled out his encrypted satellite phone and dialed a number he had not used in 5 years. The call connected after 3 rings. Morrison? I thought you were done with the shadow world. The voice belonged to Colonel Sarah Chen, his former commanding officer in a unit that officially did not exist. Sarah, I need a favor, a big one, the kind that could get us all killed. Talk to me. Jake explained the situation in short, precise sentences. Chen listened without interruption. When he finished, there was a long pause. Jake, what you're asking for? Those assets are not human. They're barely controllable under the best circumstances. If you're wrong about this, if there's any other way, there's no other way. The regular military can't touch these things. Our own government is cooperating with them. Emma's life depends on this. Another pause. Give me 12 hours. Stay off all communication networks. Don't use credit cards. Don't go home. Find somewhere safe and wait for my call. Jake hung up and looked at his daughter. She was drawing patterns in the sand with a stick, humming quietly to herself. He had 12 hours to figure out how to hide from an alien empire that could track anyone on Earth. The safe house was an abandoned mining cabin in the mountains outside Colorado Springs. Jake had discovered it during a training exercise 15 years ago and had quietly purchased the surrounding land through a shell corporation. The cabin had no electricity, no phone service, and no internet. It was invisible to satellite surveillance, hidden in a valley between 2 ridges. More importantly, it was where he kept his private arsenal. Emma fell asleep on an old sleeping bag while Jake checked his weapons. 3 assault rifles, 2 sniper rifles, enough ammunition to fight a small war, and various explosives he had acquired over the years through unofficial channels. None of it would be effective against the Stellar Dominion's technology, but it made him feel slightly less helpless. His satellite phone buzzed at exactly midnight. Chen's voice was strained. Your request has been approved at the highest levels. The assets you asked for are being deployed, but Jake, they're not going to follow your orders. They're going to follow their own instincts. You need to understand what you're unleashing. Tell me. Project Titan was developed in response to the Dominion's arrival. We recovered 2 of their scouts who had been shot down over the Pacific. The pilots were dying, but they agreed to biological integration with human military volunteers in exchange for medical treatment. The process was difficult. We lost a lot of good people. Only 2 subjects survived the full integration. Jake remembered reading fragments of classified reports about experimental super soldier programs. Most had been failures, producing unstable subjects who had to be terminated. What are their capabilities? Superhuman strength and speed, enhanced healing, the ability to interface directly with Dominion technology. Most importantly, they understand how the Dominion thinks. They were part of their military structure before the integration. But Jake, the process changed them. They're not entirely human anymore. They're not entirely Dominion either. They're something new, and they're angry about what was done to them. Are they reliable? They hate the Dominion more than anything else in the universe. As long as your goals align with theirs, they'll fight beside you. But if you cross them, or if they decide you're a threat, they'll kill you without hesitation. Jake looked at his sleeping daughter. How long until they arrive? They're already here. Check the ridgeline to your north. Jake moved to the cabin window and looked out. 2 figures stood silhouetted against the starlight on the ridge 800 meters away. They were too tall to be human, and they moved with a fluid grace that reminded him of predators. As he watched, they began walking down the slope toward the cabin. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, as if they shared a single mind. Jake, listen carefully. Their names are Marcus and Diana. They were both Navy SEALs before the integration. Marcus was a sniper with 47 confirmed kills. Diana was explosive ordnance disposal. one of the best bomb makers in the service. They remember their human lives, but those memories are filtered through Dominion neural patterns. They think differently now. They see patterns and possibilities that humans can't perceive. The figures were closer now. Jake could see that they stood nearly 7 feet tall. Their skin had a metallic sheen that shifted color in the moonlight. They wore no weapons that he could see, but their hands ended in fingers that looked sharp enough to cut steel. What do I need to know about working with them? Be direct. Don't try to manipulate them or hide information. They can sense deception in ways humans can't. Show them respect, but don't show fear. They respond to strength. And Jake, don't let Emma see them unless absolutely necessary. Children's minds sometimes react badly to their presence. The two figures stopped 50 meters from the cabin. Jake could see their eyes glowing with a soft blue light. They stood perfectly still, waiting. I have to go, Sarah. Thank you for this. Bring your daughter home, Jake, and try not to start a war between species. Jake disconnected the call and moved to the cabin door. He checked his sidearm, took a deep breath, and stepped outside. The two enhanced soldiers studied him with predatory intensity. Up close, Jake could see that their integration with Dominion biology had been extensive. Their skin was a hybrid of human flesh and living metal. Neural interface ports were visible along their spines. Their faces retained human features, but their eyes were larger and more reflective than normal. When they spoke, their voices carried harmonic undertones that made Jake's teeth ache. The male stepped forward. Commander Morrison, I am Marcus. This is Diana. We understand your child has been taken by the Dominion. Yes. They want me to train their forces in human military tactics. If I refuse, they'll experiment on my daughter. Diana's head tilted to one side. The Dominion values tactical innovation above individual lives. They will not honor any agreement they make with you. Even if you comply fully, your offspring will be used for research purposes. Jake felt his heart sink. Then we have to get her back before they return tomorrow. Marcus's metallic fingers flexed. The 3 ships that took your child are scout vessels. They carry minimal crew, perhaps 30 Dominion soldiers and 5 officers. Their weapons are primarily directed energy systems with limited ammunition reserves. They rely on overwhelming technological superiority rather than tactical skill. Can we take them? Diana's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. Commander, we were part of their military structure. We know their standard operating procedures, their communication protocols, their weaknesses. Yes, we can take them. What do you need from me? Information about the pickup location, details about the terrain, access to human military equipment that can be modified to interface with their systems. Marcus paused. And your willingness to kill everyone aboard those ships except your daughter. Jake looked at these 2 beings who had once been human soldiers like himself. They had sacrificed their humanity to gain the power to fight an enemy that conventional forces could not touch. They were offering to help him save his daughter, but they were also asking him to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. The playground where they took us, it's surrounded by open fields with good sight lines. The nearest buildings are a school and a shopping mall, both about half a mile away. If we're going to hit them, it has to be fast and clean. No civilian casualties. Diana nodded. We will need explosives. Conventional human explosives modified with Dominion energy regulators. This will allow us to penetrate their shielding systems. I have C4 and other materials here. Can you show me what modifications are needed? Yes. We will also need communications equipment capable of interfacing with their command networks. Once we board their ships, we must prevent them from calling for reinforcement. Jake felt a cold certainty settling over him. Tomorrow he would either save his daughter or die trying. There would be no middle ground, no negotiation, no mercy for anyone who threatened Emma's life. Let's get to work. The three of them spent the remaining hours of the night preparing for war. Marcus and Diana showed Jake how to modify his explosives using components they carried in small pouches on their belts. The modifications involved attaching crystalline structures that pulsed with the same green light he had seen on the alien ships. Diana explained that these crystals would create resonance frequencies that would disrupt the Dominion's energy shielding. Jake watched in fascination as the two enhanced soldiers worked. Their movements were perfectly coordinated, as if they were parts of a single organism. When Diana needed a tool, Marcus would hand it to her before she asked. When Marcus encountered a technical problem, Diana would solve it without looking up from her own work. They had been transformed into something beyond human capability, but they had retained their military precision and their dedication to the mission. As the sun rose over the mountains, Jake woke Emma and explained that they were going on another adventure. She accepted this with the trust of a child who had never known her father to lie to her. She did not ask about the two tall figures who followed them down the mountain trail, staying just out of sight but close enough to respond to any threat. The time for talking was over. In 6 hours, the Stellar Dominion would return to collect Jake's answer. Instead of surrender, they would find 3 predators waiting for them. The war for Emma Morrison was about to begin. The playground looked different in the afternoon light. Jake had positioned himself in a drainage culvert 300 meters from the swing set where Emma had been taken 24 hours earlier. His modified sniper rifle was trained on the exact spot where the ships had appeared. The weapon now carried armor-piercing rounds enhanced with Dominion crystal technology. Diana had assured him they would penetrate the alien's personal shielding. Marcus lay concealed in a maintenance shed near the school. His role was to disable the ship's communication systems before they could call for backup. Diana had taken position underground, having accessed the storm drain system that ran beneath the playground. She carried enough modified explosives to cripple a tank battalion. Jake's earpiece crackled with Diana's voice. Seismic sensors indicate 3 objects approaching from high altitude. Estimated arrival in 90 seconds. The enhanced soldiers had spent the morning teaching Jake to use Dominion sensor technology. The small device clipped to his collar could detect energy signatures, electromagnetic fields, and gravitational distortions. Right now, it was screaming warnings as 3 massive shapes descended through the clouds. The ships materialized exactly where they had appeared the day before. Up close, Jake could see details that had been hidden by distance. The hulls were covered in what looked like scales that shifted and moved independently. Weapon ports opened along their sides like hungry mouths. Landing gear extended from their bellies like insect legs. Jake's scope was focused on the largest ship when a loading ramp descended from its side. 6 Dominion soldiers emerged first, their 4-legged forms moving with mechanical precision. They carried weapons that resembled organic growths more than manufactured devices. Behind them came 3 of the tall creatures with 6 arms. One of these was dragging a small human figure. Emma. Jake's finger moved to his trigger, but Diana's voice stopped him. Not yet. We need them away from the ships before we begin the attack. If they retreat with your daughter, we lose our opportunity. The lead Dominion officer gestured toward the playground with 2 of its arms. Its voice carried clearly across the open ground, amplified by speakers built into its living metal skin. Human Morrison, present yourself for negotiation. Jake remained hidden. The plan required the aliens to believe he was cooperating until the last possible moment. Marcus would make the initial move by disabling their communications. Diana would follow with the explosives. Jake would provide cover fire and move to extract Emma during the confusion. Minutes passed. The Dominion soldiers spread out in a search pattern. Their energy weapons hummed with contained power. Jake could see Emma standing between 2 guards near the ships. She looked small and frightened, but she was not crying. His daughter was tougher than most adults he had known. Human Morrison, your absence indicates refusal to cooperate. Termination of offspring will proceed unless you surrender immediately. Through his scope, Jake watched one of the six-armed creatures raise what looked like a biological weapon toward Emma. The barrel was lined with teeth that gnashed hungrily. Whatever this thing fired, it was not meant to kill quickly. "Now," Jake whispered into his microphone. Marcus moved first. His enhanced body allowed him to cover the distance from the shed to the nearest ship in 3 seconds. Jake watched through his scope as the hybrid soldier leaped 20 feet into the air and landed on the ship's hull. His metallic fingers tore through the armored scales like they were paper. Sparks erupted from damaged systems. The ship's lights flickered and died. The Dominion soldiers spun toward this new threat, but Diana's attack came from below. The ground beneath the second ship erupted in a column of fire and metal. The explosion had been precisely calculated to disable the vessel without destroying it completely. Jake would need the ships intact to pursue any Dominion forces that escaped with his daughter. Jake squeezed his trigger. His first shot took the head off the creature threatening Emma. The enhanced round punched through its energy shielding like it did not exist. Purple blood sprayed across the playground equipment. Emma dropped to the ground and rolled toward cover behind the swing set, exactly as Jake had taught her during their weekend survival games. The battle turned chaotic. Dominion soldiers fired their energy weapons wildly, trying to target 3 enemies who moved faster than their tracking systems could follow. Diana emerged from the storm drain directly beneath a group of 4 soldiers. Her enhanced strength allowed her to grab 2 of them and use them as shields, while she drew her sidearm with her free hand. Her modified pistol fired rounds that exploded inside the aliens' bodies, turning their liquid metal skin into shrapnel that wounded their companions. Marcus had disappeared inside the first ship. Jake could hear the sounds of combat echoing from its interior. Metal screamed as it was torn apart. Alien voices rose in harmonious shrieks of pain and fear. Something exploded inside the vessel, and green fire poured from its weapon ports. Jake kept his scope trained on Emma's position. 3 Dominion soldiers were moving toward her cover. He dropped the first with a headshot. The second spun toward his muzzle flash, but Jake had already shifted position. His second shot caught the alien center mass. The creature's energy shielding flared bright purple, then failed completely. Its body came apart like wet sand. The third soldier reached Emma's position. Jake watched in horror as his daughter was lifted into the air by 4 spindly arms. The alien began moving toward the undamaged ship, using Emma as a human shield. Jake could not take the shot without risking her life. Diana solved the problem with characteristic directness. She sprinted across the playground and leaped onto the alien's back. Her metallic fingers found the creature's neural ports and tore them out in a shower of sparks. The soldier collapsed instantly, its nervous system severed. Emma rolled free and ran toward the drainage culvert where her father was hidden. Marcus emerged from the disabled ship, carrying a Dominion officer by one of its 6 arms. The alien was still alive, but badly wounded. Purple blood dripped from wounds in its living metal skin. Marcus threw the creature at Jake's feet and spoke in the harmonic undertones that marked his altered nature. "This one is a communications specialist. It can provide access codes to their command networks." The alien officer raised its elongated head. Its cluster of eyes focused on Jake with malevolent intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was filled with pain and rage. "You have made a grave error, human. The Dominion fleet will reduce your world to ash. Your species will be harvested for biological components." Jake looked down at the creature that had threatened to experiment on his daughter. "You picked the wrong family." He put his rifle barrel against the alien's head cluster and pulled the trigger. The enhanced round vaporized the creature's skull and embedded itself in the concrete below. Jake felt no satisfaction, only cold necessity. These things had declared war on his family. He would fight that war on his terms. Diana was examining the undamaged ship with professional interest. This vessel contains navigation data for their fleet positions. We can determine where the main force is located and how long we have before reinforcements arrive. Emma ran up to her father and threw her arms around his waist. Jake holstered his rifle and picked up his daughter, checking her for injuries. She was frightened but unharmed. More importantly, she looked at him with the same trust she had always shown. She knew her daddy would protect her from anything. "Are the bad aliens gone?" Emma asked. "These ones are gone, sweetheart, but there might be more coming. We need to get ready for them." Marcus was dragging alien bodies into a pile near the disabled ships. "The Dominion will investigate when these vessels fail to report. We have perhaps 6 hours before scout ships arrive to determine what happened here." Jake carried Emma toward the damaged ships. The hulls were cracked and twisted, but their internal systems were still partially functional. Green light pulsed through organic conduits that looked like blood vessels. The air inside smelled of ozone and decay. "Can we use these ships to attack their main force?" Diana nodded. "With modifications, yes. Our integration allows us to interface directly with their control systems. We can pilot these vessels and access their weapons. But Jake, you need to understand what we're proposing. We're talking about attacking an entire alien fleet with 3 damaged scouts. The odds against success are approximately 18,000 to 1. Jake looked at his daughter, who was studying the alien technology with the fearless curiosity of childhood. The Dominion had made one critical error. They had assumed humans would submit to superior technology. They had not understood that some humans would fight impossible odds to protect what they loved. "What do we need to do?" Marcus gestured toward the least damaged ship. "First, we must repair the navigation systems and weapons. Then we must modify the power cores to operate at beyond safe parameters. The ships will likely be destroyed in the attack, but they will have enough operational time to reach the fleet and engage targets." "How do we find their fleet?" Diana produced a small crystalline device from one of the dead aliens. "This data core contains star charts and fleet positions. According to this information, the main Dominion force is positioned at the edge of your solar system, near the asteroid belt. 47 ships, including dreadnoughts and carriers." Jake studied the alien device. Its surface swirled with patterns that hurt his eyes to look at directly. "How long to reach them?" "With these scout ships operating at maximum velocity, approximately 14 hours. Emma tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, are we going into space?" Jake knelt down to his daughter's eye level. "Emma, I need you to stay here where it's safe. Diana and Marcus and I have to go stop the bad aliens so they can't hurt anyone else." Emma's lower lip trembled. "I want to go with you." "I know you do, sweetheart. But this is grown-up work. Very dangerous grown-up work. I need you to stay with some friends who will keep you safe until I come back." Diana spoke quietly. "Jake, there are no safe places. If we fail, the Dominion will strip mine this planet for resources. Your daughter will be safer with us than anywhere else on Earth." Marcus agreed. "The child has seen us fight. She shows no fear of our altered appearance. Children sometimes adapt to unusual circumstances better than adults. She may be an asset rather than a liability." Jake looked at Emma, who was nodding seriously. His 8-year-old daughter wanted to go to war against an alien empire. The rational part of his mind screamed that this was insane. The father in him wanted to lock her in a bunker until the danger passed. But the soldier in him recognized that Diana and Marcus were right. There was nowhere truly safe. The only way to protect Emma was to eliminate the threat completely. "All right, but Emma, you have to promise to do exactly what Diana and Marcus tell you to do. No questions, no arguments. Can you promise me that?" Emma nodded solemnly. "I promise, Daddy." The next several hours were spent preparing the ships for their suicide mission. Marcus and Diana worked with inhuman speed and precision to repair damaged systems and modify weapons for maximum destructive potential. Jake helped where he could and spent the rest of his time teaching Emma how to operate basic ship systems in case something happened to the adults. As night fell, they loaded themselves into the least damaged scout ship. The interior was cramped and designed for creatures with different body proportions than humans. The air recycling system made breathing difficult. The control surfaces were organic and unpleasant to touch, but the ship was functional. Diana took the pilot position, her neural interface ports connecting directly to the ship's control systems. Her eyes rolled back in her head as alien knowledge flooded her consciousness. When she spoke, her voice carried new harmonic patterns that Jake had never heard before. I have access to their tactical networks. The fleet is maintaining position near Ceres. They are preparing for a major assault on Earth's population centers. 36 hours until bombardment begins. Marcus strapped himself into the weapons officer's position. His integration with the ship's systems was equally complete. Primary weapons are charged. We have sufficient ammunition for prolonged engagement. Stealth systems are marginal but functional. Jake secured Emma in a crash couch that had been hastily modified for human physiology. His daughter looked very small in the alien restraint system, but her eyes were bright with excitement rather than fear. She trusted her father completely, and that trust gave him strength. "Everyone ready?" Diana's response was immediate. The ship rose from the playground with none of the dramatic effects shown in movies. One moment they were on the ground, the next they were accelerating towards space at velocities that should have killed them. The alien inertial compensation systems protected them from forces that would have liquefied normal human bodies. Through the ship's organic viewports, Jake watched the Earth fall away beneath them. City lights sparkled like jewels against the darkness. Somewhere down there, people were living normal lives, unaware that their planet was about to be invaded by creatures from another star. In 36 hours, those lights would be extinguished forever unless 3 humans and 2 enhanced soldiers could accomplish the impossible. Marcus spoke from his position at the weapons console. Long-range sensors indicate the Dominion fleet is maintaining standard defensive formation. They are not expecting attack from captured scout vessels. How long until we reach engagement range? 12 hours at current acceleration. We will arrive during their rest cycle when crew efficiency is reduced. Diana's voice carried new undertones of alien calculation. I have been analyzing their fleet composition and tactical doctrine. The Dominion relies on overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. They do not expect enemies to survive initial contact long enough to mount effective counterattacks. This is both their greatest strength and their primary weakness. Jake settled back in his seat and tried to rest. In 12 hours, he would either save his daughter's world or die in the attempt. Either way, the Stellar Dominion would learn that humans were more dangerous than they had calculated. Emma had fallen asleep in her crash couch. She looked peaceful, dreaming whatever dreams children had while traveling through space toward a battle that would determine the fate of their species. Jake watched her sleeping face and made a silent promise. No matter what happened in the next 12 hours, his daughter would live to see the sun rise over a free Earth. The stars wheeled around them as their stolen ship raced toward an impossible battle against impossible odds. But Jake Morrison had spent his entire adult life doing impossible things. This would just be one more mission, one more enemy to defeat, one more reason to come home alive. The Stellar Dominion was about to learn why humans had conquered their own world through violence, determination, and an absolute refusal to surrender when their children were threatened. The real war was about to begin. The Stellar Dominion fleet hung in space like a city of nightmares. 47 ships formed a defensive sphere around their flagship, each vessel large enough to carry thousands of soldiers. Jake counted 3 dreadnoughts that dwarfed Earth's largest aircraft carriers. 5 carrier ships pulsed with the green energy signatures of fighter squadrons. The rest were destroyers and cruisers, any one of which could reduce a human city to ash. Their stolen scout ship drifted through the asteroid field toward the fleet's perimeter. Diana had shut down all active systems except life support. To Dominion sensors, they would appear to be another piece of space debris. The deception would last until they opened fire. Marcus studied the tactical display that covered one wall of their cramped control room. The interface responded to his thoughts rather than physical touch, alien technology interpreting human neural patterns through his enhanced nervous system. The flagship is positioned at the formation's center. It carries the fleet command staff and the quantum communication array that maintains contact with the Dominion homeworld. Jake checked his daughter's crash restraints for the 10th time. Emma had awakened an hour ago and was watching the alien fleet with the same fascination she had once shown for fireworks displays. She did not fully understand the danger they faced, which was probably for the best. If we destroy the flagship, does that stop the invasion? Diana's voice carried harmonics that indicated she was accessing deep tactical databases stored in her enhanced memory. Negative. The fleet has backup command structures. However, destroying the quantum communicator will prevent them from calling for reinforcement. It will also trigger automated protocols that will recall all Dominion forces to defensive positions around their homeworld. How do we get close enough to the flagship without being detected? Marcus gestured toward the tactical display. Standard Dominion doctrine places scout vessels on patrol routes through the asteroid field. We will mimic the course and identification codes of a returning patrol. This should allow us to penetrate their defensive perimeter. Jake studied the formation. Even with enhanced weapons, their single scout ship could not fight 47 enemy vessels. They would get one chance to strike the flagship before the entire fleet converged on their position. After that, survival would depend on luck and the enemy's reaction time. What about the other scout ships? The ones we disabled at the playground? Diana smiled, an expression that looked strange on her metallic features. Those vessels are currently following automated courses toward different sections of the fleet. When we begin our attack, they will simultaneously detonate their modified power cores. The explosions will not destroy the larger ships, but they will damage sensors and disrupt communications during the critical first minutes of battle. Emma spoke for the first time in hours. Daddy, are we really going to fight all those ships by ourselves? Jake knelt beside her crash couch. Sometimes, sweetheart, a small group of people who are fighting for the right reasons can beat a much larger enemy. The bad aliens think humans are weak because we don't have their fancy technology. They're about to learn they were wrong. The next hour passed in tense silence as their ship drifted closer to the fleet perimeter. Jake watched alien patrol vessels pass nearby, their hulls bristling with weapons that could vaporize their scout ship in seconds. The stolen identification codes held. To the Dominion fleet, they were just another patrol returning from a routine sweep of the outer solar system. Marcus announced their approach to the inner formation. Flagship is now within weapons range. I am detecting approximately 2,000 Dominion personnel aboard, plus their command staff. Jake felt a moment of doubt. 2,000 beings were about to die because they had threatened his daughter. Then he remembered the alien's words about harvesting Earth's population for biological components. The Dominion had come to his world not as explorers or conquerors, but as exterminators. They deserved no mercy. Diana, how long until the other ships reach detonation points? 3 minutes 40 seconds. All automated systems are functioning normally. Jake activated the ship's internal communication system. His voice would now carry throughout the vessel and be transmitted to the 2 unmanned scouts approaching their targets. This is Commander Jake Morrison, United States Navy. For 24 hours, the Stellar Dominion has threatened my daughter and my world. They believe humans are inferior beings, suitable only for exploitation and experimentation. They're about to learn the price of threatening a Navy SEAL's family. The flagship grew larger on their tactical display. Its hull was covered in organic armor that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Weapon ports lined its sides like the eyes of some massive insect. At its core, Jake could see the quantum communicator array, a cluster of crystalline structures that bridged the gap between dimensions. Marcus, lock weapons on the communication array. Diana, prepare for maximum acceleration immediately after we fire. Weapons locked. All modified ordnance is ready for simultaneous launch. 60 seconds to coordinated detonation of remote units. Jake looked at Emma one last time. His daughter watched him with complete trust, certain that her father would protect her from any danger. He would not let her down. Execute attack. Marcus fired every weapon their scout ship carried. Enhanced torpedoes raced toward the flagship at significant fractions of light speed. Energy beams that had been modified with human targeting algorithms carved through the void. The ship's entire ammunition supply was expended in 12 seconds of sustained fire. The flagship's defensive systems reacted instantly. Energy shields flared to life around the massive vessel. Point defense weapons began intercepting incoming projectiles. But the ship's designers had never encountered weapons enhanced with human tactical innovation. The torpedoes carried penetrator warheads that used Dominion crystal technology to phase through energy barriers. The energy beams were modulated to frequencies that disrupted shield generators. Explosions erupted across the flagship's hull. Secondary detonations indicated that their attacks had reached critical systems. The quantum communicator array shattered in a cascade of interdimensional feedback that lit up space like a miniature star. At the same moment, the two unmanned scout ships reached their targets and detonated. One explosion disabled a dreadnought's sensor arrays. The other crippled a carrier's flight operations center. The carefully organized fleet formation dissolved into chaos as individual ship commanders tried to understand what was attacking them. Diana threw their scout ship into evasive maneuvers that would have killed unprotected humans. Acceleration forces that should have liquefied their organs were absorbed by alien inertial compensators. Jake felt his body pressed into his crash restraint as they raced away from the flagship at velocities no human pilot could have managed. Enemy fire began tracking their ship. Energy beams scorched past their hull. Kinetic projectiles filled space around them with lethal debris. Their ship's armor began failing under the sustained bombardment. Hull breach in Section 4. Life support is marginal. Weapon systems are offline. Marcus's voice remained calm despite their desperate situation. How long until we reach the asteroid field? 4 minutes at current velocity. But Jake, our propulsion system is failing. We will not maintain this acceleration much longer. Through the chaos of battle, Jake could see the results of their attack. The flagship was listing heavily, its communications array completely destroyed. Several smaller ships had been damaged by debris from their coordinated explosions. The fleet was no longer in formation, with individual vessels moving to random defensive positions. But 46 ships remained operational, and they were all converging on the small scout vessel that had dared to attack them. Jake counted hundreds of energy beams reaching toward their position. No ship could survive that concentration of firepower. Emma spoke quietly from her crash restraint. "Daddy." "Look!" Jake followed her pointing finger toward the tactical display. New contacts were appearing at the edge of sensor range. Ships with unfamiliar energy signatures were approaching the battle zone at high velocity. As they drew closer, Jake could see they were human vessels, but unlike anything in Earth's current fleet. These ships were larger and more advanced than any technology his planet possessed. Diana's enhanced senses were analyzing the newcomers. These vessels are broadcasting human identification codes, but their technology is beyond current Earth capabilities. Someone has been developing advanced spacecraft in secret. The lead ship opened a communication channel. The voice that emerged from their speakers was unmistakably human, but it carried undertones that reminded Jake of Marcus and Diana. Scout vessel. This is Admiral Sarah Chen aboard the UES Retribution. Maintain your current course and prepare for fleet engagement. Jake stared at the tactical display in amazement. Chen had not just sent him 2 enhanced soldiers. She had sent an entire fleet of advanced warships crewed by humans who had undergone similar enhancement procedures. The shadow world that had produced Marcus and Diana was apparently much larger than he had imagined. 12 human ships engaged the Dominion fleet with weapons that made their stolen scout vessels' armaments look primitive. Energy beams that burned with the light of small suns carved through alien armor. Missile swarms that moved with impossible coordination overwhelmed enemy defenses. Most importantly, these ships were commanded by enhanced humans who understood both human military doctrine and Dominion tactical patterns. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded human history. Vessels designed by completely different species and philosophies clashed in the void between worlds. The Dominion fought with the methodical precision of a technologically superior civilization. The enhanced humans fought with tactical innovation that constantly adapted to changing conditions. Jake watched a human cruiser ram directly through a Dominion dreadnought's shields, its reinforced hull tearing the alien vessel in half. Another human ship used the gravity field of a nearby asteroid to slingshot around enemy formations, attacking from unexpected angles. The Dominion fleet was larger and more powerful, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to follow conventional tactical doctrines. Jake, we have incoming transmission on emergency frequencies. Diana was monitoring multiple communication channels simultaneously. Admiral Chen's voice filled their scout ship. Commander Morrison, your attack on the flagship disrupted their command structure exactly as planned. The quantum communicator is destroyed, and the fleet cannot call for reinforcement. We can win this battle, but we need intelligence on their remaining capabilities. Jake activated the communication system. Admiral, my enhanced crew has access to their tactical databases. What do you need to know? Their flagship is crippled but not destroyed. If it regains power to its main weapons, it could turn the battle. Can your people disable it permanently? Marcus was already analyzing the damaged flagship through their sensor systems. The ship's power core is unstable. If we can deliver a focused electromagnetic pulse to their primary energy conduits, the resulting cascade failure will destroy the vessel completely. How do we get close enough to deliver that pulse? Diana's fingers danced over the alien control surfaces. I am detecting a maintenance shaft that leads directly to their power core. The shaft is too small for Dominion personnel, but a human child could navigate it easily. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. Absolutely not. I will not send my daughter into that ship. Emma looked up at her father with serious eyes. Daddy, if I don't do this, will the bad aliens hurt other kids like they hurt me? The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly. The human fleet was winning, but casualties were mounting. 2 human ships had been destroyed, their crews lost to the void. The Dominion flagship was slowly restoring power to its primary weapons. In 10 minutes, it would be capable of destroying Admiral Chen's command ship. Marcus spoke quietly. Jake, the child is small enough to reach systems that we cannot access. The pulse device requires only basic placement and activation. The risk is significant but manageable with proper support. Diana added her own analysis. I can guide her through the maintenance systems using the ship's internal sensors. The pathway to the power core is clear of Dominion personnel. She would be alone, but not unprotected. Jake looked at his 8-year-old daughter, who had somehow become the key to winning an interstellar war. Every instinct as a father screamed against sending her into danger. Every memory of his military training told him that sometimes individuals had to risk everything to protect what mattered most. Emma, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. Emma unbuckled herself from her crash restraint and stood up. Despite her small size, she looked completely determined. "Daddy, you taught me that sometimes good people have to do scary things to protect other good people. This is one of those times." Jake knelt down and pulled his daughter into a fierce hug. She smelled like playground dirt and strawberry shampoo, normal things from a normal world that was depending on her courage. "I love you, sweetheart, more than all the stars in the sky." "I love you too, Daddy. Now let's go save the world." The next 30 minutes were the longest in Jake Morrison's life. Their damaged scout ship limped alongside the Dominion flagship, while Diana guided Emma through maintenance shafts that twisted through the alien vessel like arteries. Jake listened to his daughter's voice over the communication system, describing what she saw as she crawled through passages designed for automated repair systems. "There are lots of purple lights here, and the walls feel warm. Diana, which way do I go now?" "Continue straight for 50 meters, then take the shaft that goes down. You should see the power core chamber directly below you." "I see it. It's really big and bright and kind of scary looking." Marcus monitored the ship's defensive systems, while Jake tracked Emma's progress. The Dominion crew was focused on restoring their primary weapons and had not detected the small human presence moving through their maintenance systems. Their sensors were designed to detect major threats, not 8-year-old children on desperate missions. "Emma, you should see a circular panel directly above the main power conduit. That's where you need to place the device." "I found it. The panel is kind of sticky, but I can reach it." Jake watched through Diana's sensor interface as his daughter attached the electromagnetic pulse device to the flagship's primary power system. The device was no larger than a cell phone, but it carried enough concentrated energy to cripple the massive alien vessel. "Device is in position. Activation countdown is 30 seconds. Emma, you need to return to the pickup point immediately." Jake held his breath as Emma crawled back through the maintenance shafts. Every second felt like an hour. The Dominion flagship was almost ready to fire its main weapons. If Emma was still inside when the pulse detonated, the resulting power surge would kill her instantly. "I'm at the pickup point. Daddy, I can see your ship outside the airlock." Diana activated the ship's emergency docking system. A flexible tube extended from their scout vessel and sealed against the flagship's hull. Emergency explosive bolts carved an opening through the alien armor. Emma tumbled through the makeshift airlock and into her father's arms, just as the electromagnetic pulse device activated. The Dominion flagship died in a cascade of secondary explosions that lit up the asteroid field. Its power core overloaded, sending feedback through every system on the massive vessel. Lights went out across its hull as critical failures spread like a plague. The ship that had carried the dreams of conquest across interstellar space became a lifeless hulk, drifting among the asteroids. With their flagship destroyed and their communications severed, the remaining Dominion vessels began withdrawing from the battle zone. Some ships attempted to flee toward the outer solar system. Others tried to rally around the surviving dreadnoughts. All of them were systematically hunted down and destroyed by Admiral Chen's enhanced human fleet. The battle lasted 6 more hours. When it ended, the Stellar Dominion's invasion force had been completely annihilated. Debris from 47 alien warships drifted through space as testament to what happened when a technologically superior civilization underestimated human determination and tactical innovation. Jake sat in the pilot's chair of their damaged scout ship, holding Emma on his lap while she slept. His daughter had saved the world, and she was dreaming peacefully, as if nothing unusual had happened. Diana was piloting their vessel back toward Earth, following Admiral Chen's fleet toward home. Marcus spoke from his position at the sensor station. "Long-range communications indicate that Dominion forces throughout human space are withdrawing. Without the quantum communicator, they cannot coordinate their operations or request additional support from their home world. The immediate threat to Earth has been eliminated. Jake looked out at the stars that no longer held an alien fleet preparing to exterminate his species. What about the enhanced soldiers like you and Diana? How many more are there? Diana's voice carried a note of satisfaction that was entirely human. Enough, Jake. Enough to make sure this never happens again. The Dominion believed they were conquering a primitive species with limited military capability. They have learned that humans are willing to sacrifice anything to protect their families. 3 days later, Jake and Emma stood in the same playground where the war had begun. The swing set looked exactly the same. Children were playing on the equipment, their parents watching from nearby benches. None of them knew that the world had almost ended, or that it had been saved by a Navy SEAL and his 8-year-old daughter. Emma ran toward the swings, calling over her shoulder, "Come on, Daddy, push me really high!" Jake followed his daughter across the playground, listening to her laughter echo through the afternoon air. The sky above them was clear and blue, empty of alien ships. Earth belonged to humanity again, defended by ordinary people who had done extraordinary things when their children were threatened. The Stellar Dominion would remember this lesson when they returned to their homeworld. They would tell their leaders that humans were not the primitive species they had expected. They were something far more dangerous, parents willing to fight impossible odds to protect their young. Jake pushed Emma on the swing and watched her soar toward the sky. His daughter was already planning their next adventure, talking about camping trips and hiking trails and all the normal things that children should be allowed to dream about. The war was over. The world was safe. And sometimes, that was enough. In the end, the greatest military force in the galaxy had been defeated by 3 simple things: a father's love, a child's courage, and the human refusal to surrender when family was threatened. The Stellar Dominion had learned that conquering Earth would require destroying humanity completely, and that was a lesson they would never forget.